adding those things like the outdoor garden, the outdoor classroom, the stuff at Prairie View. And here at Frederick, what they did is they did the exercise track around the facility. So we kind of let each one of the school communities of parents and teachers and students kind of design their own extra stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
So why some of them don't have it is, some of that is parent participation, student involvement, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if that would fall necessarily under facilities, because it sounds like it's something that needs to go under communication, I guess, or.
Well, I think it can fall under that, but it can also fall, it probably falls more underneath opportunities.
Okay.
The same thing. That looked like sounded like an opportunity.
Yeah.
And an equity opportunity too.
Yep.
Because I know some communities sometimes struggle with parent involvement at some of the schools, and so they might not know that is up to them to do, so to speak.
Sure. I agree. And I think at least the position of the current board is they support, those type of initiatives. I think the only thing we've really, and this is going to sound bad, didn't support wholeheartedly was the greenhouses at GMS because of the cost it was going to be for the long term for GMS to support.
Right.
So
Right.
other than that, for the most part, we've fully embraced those type of opportunities.
Awesome.
I think another opportunity related to that is continuity. There are parents who get involved, but then they move on. Their kids move up to other schools. And so you have these parents involved with these projects, but then they're no longer at that school to help
keep it going,
keep the project going. Or the information was collected and gathered, but it wasn't shared in a format that allowed other people to take it over.
Mm-hmm.
That would be more weakness, correct? With the outdoor.
Yeah. I guess any program, any PTO involvement, there's usually people who've been doing like Imagination Day for years or Exploration Day, and then suddenly these volunteers are thrown into putting on this huge program and not really knowing what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah, you notice the big drop off when you get to about 6, 7, 8 grade.
Because people are tired.
People are tired of keeping it going, right? Yeah, and when they get into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, there's other opportunities for those students between sport, theater, and music and band. So it kind of wanes off a little bit.
Yeah,
that's one of the struggles that we do with EC. Like I said, I don't know if it's a facilities and Jessica, you were experiencing that because Reed was in my class and he had another class, and then you went from Prairie View to another building. So if there was something established in that ECC program, then all those parents who may have been working together now are split apart amongst the district. So it's where that would fall as far as an opportunity or a weakness. But so that is something. I actually have weakness, and I think it's more of a structural thing, Adam. I don't know if there's an answer for it, but once again, it goes back to the ECC program. The playground that we have access to, we used to, because we only had 3 kindergarten classrooms filled, we could go through one of the kindergarten classrooms. Now, and once again, it's just the logistics of the building. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if there's an answer, but I see it as a weakness. For my class to go to the playground, we have to go out, hang a left, go out toward the parking lot where the retention pond is, go outside, hang a right, and walk around the building on the outside of the building, which is great. The kids enjoy the walking. It's just the logistics of the building.
So do you say that's a weakness, or would you call that a threat?
That's a good question.
I look at it from a safety.
It could be a safety issue. I have pictures of a couple sandhill cranes from one of the days I went into the school in the past couple weeks, right there at the door. So that could be a physical threat. Now, that hasn't happened a lot because usually there's enough traffic back and forth. But there are times when it floods back there and the water is within 6-7 feet of that sidewalk that exists there. So there's just the logistics of that. And like I said, I don't know that there's an easy answer, and I don't know if there is an answer, but it's definitely a weakness, maybe a threat.
I haven't experienced the cooperation with the Park District to always be positive. I'm glad you have, Adam. When I was at Park, it was really frustrating because there were some Park District programs that the stage, for instance, was taken over with all of their sets and things so that the productions for Park didn't have any room to do a stage. Like kids had 1 foot of space to be able to go on and off the stage. So in some cases it works well, and in other cases not so well.
I did have space restrictions or as a weakness. Even if we were able to get to the point where we could add staffing to lower class sizes, we run into space restrictions of, open classrooms in each building to be able to facilitate that across the board. So I think that's one of that is a weakness. Now with declining enrollment, that helps a little bit, but unfortunately we have 7 schools. When you start taking 400 kids over 10 years between 7 schools, between 9 grades, it doesn't really equate to a big drop in class sizes.
And Jim, that space issue actually has shown up at Prairie View over the past few years because the ECC program has grown. There are now 8 teachers teaching 16 sections of ECC. We actually have 1 full pod that's EC, and then poor Mrs. Alghini has been bumped over to the next pod with the older grade teachers because there's no space in the pod that it's become the EC center. So that's definitely an issue. Who knows what the enrollment would be like, but currently we have, for lack of a better term, spilled out of our pod into another pod.
Yep.
Actually, if you guys don't mind my sharing, your examples that you've mentioned made me think of one. A good example of a threat would be significant enrollment shifts. In other words, if the enrollment all of a sudden increased significantly, that may have an impact in your facilities. If it were to decrease significantly, that also can be a threat. So enrollment shifts is a potential threat. Now, realistically, is it going to happen? I'm sure your district does have some enrollment projections looking forward. In fact, looking at your lower grades, they all look smaller than your upper grades enrollment-wise. But again, with those lower numbers, does that create any potential opportunities as well? Is another way to take a look at that. The other piece, if I could just interject, I know when we share some of these weaknesses, Adam, just on your behalf, these aren't things that are directed at you. This is all about the facilities.
Oh, absolutely.
So I hope, one of the things about being the person on that committee sometimes can have the tendency to take those things personally, and obviously you don't need to. You've got all people here who all just have the same goal in mind, and that is what's best for the district. So thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a couple of threats that I thought of. One is the large capital expenses that we do have coming due. You mentioned the new roofs coming up on 3 or 4 different buildings. Typically we've been paying cash on hand for those, and we haven't had to go out for bonds in order to do that. So that's part of the reason why, our fund balances have gone up on capital so that we could make those cash outlays. Extreme weather is not like we are immune from extreme weather around here. So you have damages to buildings from tornadoes and floods and
Ice
and freezing and stuff like that. We're not immune to that. Working on the fire department, I've seen it firsthand for the different schools. And then as Gary had mentioned, the potential growth. We have a large pocket on the west side of the district that is open for opportunity of one way or the other, either commercial or residential. That could go out just west of Park all the way up to Wilson and 120. So we get a big influx of homes that might pop up out there. That's going to cause even more space concerns for Park and Prairie View. And so those are out there.
You know, I didn't have pictures of it or talk much about it, but on a threats aspect of it, for me, I look at our vestibule areas and our entranceways as a safety threat, security wise. I've said it before. I don't remember if I said it in the last group, but I mean, we're not in Mayberry. Times have changed. People have changed. And I know we deal a lot with the Park District and the community, but yet it's not always that. So I look at internal safety of the schools on that aspect also, which I guess comes down to a capital project of having to deal with the safety of those.
For opportunities, I had increase of solar fields or solar program that we have as we start putting in, more new roofs, the ability and the opportunity to expand that, to continue the sustainability for the district and possible small revenue sources. And then eventually, if the enrollment starts to continue to decline and in the right spots, the opportunity would be there to close down a school, so that we reduce operating expenses as we go along. I think we're a long way from being able to do that, just based on our current class sizes.
Mhm.
But it continues to go down. It's always something that you have to start looking at.
Is that on a threat or opportunity side of a dollar savings?
I just think it's an opportunity side. I don't know. It's not necessarily. I mean, it kind of falls under both. Right? The shifting in an increase in growth or a decrease in growth. It's a threat in that aspect, but it's also an opportunity. To maybe like we did with Lakeview, you ended up shedding a building that would cost us in the long run, have to maintain and everything.
Sure.
Now the problem with doing that too, much like with Woodview back in the 80s and 90s, where we closed it and rented it out, we ended up having to reopen it because enrollment went back up. So what do you do with it? Do you hold on to it and try and find somebody to use it for the time being until you need it again? Versus building a whole brand new building, which would just, there's the whole cost of that. So
that's, and you state about having to close the building down as a cost savings or finding somebody to rent it at that point there, that's a revenue. It could be a revenue depending on what you're able to get per square footage and dollar wise, if it ever came to that.
Right. I think we're a long way from being able to get to there. I mean,
Right.
You're talking, in my opinion, and I'm just a layman here, in my opinion, in order to drop a whole school, you're looking at dropping 400 kids out of the population. And I don't think we're going to get that for a long time.
Nope.
I actually think we're going to see an increase in younger students as we go along here. Because like my family, I've lived in town my whole life. So the children aspect of my family has turned over twice now. My last one is now in high school. So once those are out of high school, we'll be looking to move people are looking to move for here for the schools are going to buy, you know, a house like mine and bring kids into the school, and then you'll see the kind of whole cycle go back up. I think we're just at that point where you could see in the next 5 years, you could actually see it going back up just on a turnover basis.
Sure.
Hey, Adam, and I don't know where this would fall, and it's one of the things I thought, and I'm glad Jim mentioned the solar fields, because it once again, just not knowing, but knowing Prairie View and knowing, mentioning that flooding back there, and I'm not a technician that set that up or any of that type of stuff. Is that something that was built in when they put that solar field, that specific solar field back there, the fact that it does flood, it does get high back there? Are those stands or posts or whatever it is, you know, something that has to be maintained? Is it something that we would have to plan for?
So you're talking about the ones that hold the solar array up?
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean,
right back there is so I'll take a step back. When Prairie View was built there was a drainage in which is still there, that runs from the gun club all the way up to 120 and past. It goes out to Squaw Creek, which is there for the 100-year flood. Well, everybody says 100-year flood, which you can count any years being 100 years from the last flood. But it is known as a wetland that will flood, and we had to route that. We had to reroute the drain because it ran right through the middle of Prairie View, so it had to go out to the west side of it and come down along by the. My kids call them hot dogs. I can't think of what it is right off the top of my head right now. But it's like a little wetlands that's right there between Prairie View and the industrial right there on the west side.
so between there and Rousseau, then?
Yes. So it was built with the knowledge of water.
All right.
That reminds me of, is the roof that's going on Meadowview going to address how much water that roof gets during a rainfall?
No.
Okay.
What it is going to address is all the leaks and the damage throughout the years.
Okay.
We're not raising the roof. We're not changing the pitch on the roof.
Okay. Yeah, because right now whenever there's a rainstorm or a heavy melt, there's a lot of water that comes down. There are like waterfalls in the back. I'm in that neighborhood. And that's part of what prompted some of the projects with the Woodland project at Meadowview, showing the kids how much water was coming off. But that's just one little section. And I just didn't know if all that water affects the foundation at all. I don't know much about.
Not the way it comes off.
Okay. I guess that's good.
There's also a kind of perpetuating water problem at Avon down there in the basement. Is that a kind of a threat that needs to be done every once in a while, where occasionally they need to dredge out where the marsh is, where it drains in, otherwise it backs up into. My room has been down in the basement forever, and we joke about the frogs and the snakes, and it's fun. You don't never know what you'll see, but sometimes it just kind of builds up, and then you have floodwaters come in. So it hasn't been dredged in about 10 years. I'm wondering if it was done and that job held, or if it will need to be done again.
It most likely would have to be done again eventually down the line, depending on what the case was, unless they actually cured the issue over there. Could be a jet rotting, could be a dredging, right there in between the high school and Avon right there.
And in the back of the lot between Avon, and then there's Rollins, and there's the
electric line.
And then there's the electrical easement, like the big, huge things. And then back in there's marsh that's pretty mucky.
Sure. Through the years of building, it's not always thought out and planned out where that water is going to go to. I
understand. And I understand that gym that was put on was built by parents.
That is correct.
Thing. And so some stuff was cheated. It was cheated a little bit when it was built.
That
You
is
mean-
correct.
I mean, they might have skimped a little bit.
Well, yeah, they cut a few corners. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good enough, you know.
I've seen it as I've gone through there. But I will note on that drainage in which I know I was in a meeting the other day with the CEG about the different drainage they're looking at doing in widening of Barron and 83 from Grand Avenue all the way to 137. It's probably a good 3-4 years off if they even do it, but it is to help cure the water issues.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust the state for that.
You want to know something? I don't either. After I was listening to them though, because this dates back to 2017 from the flood then, and they've got these great ideas in mind, which everybody loses 25 feet on each side. They talk about a walking path. They don't know who's going to end up doing the plowing and the shoveling of it, and then the homeowners are going to lose 25 feet of their backyard as it goes down. Oh, by the way, they don't have a clue in the world where the money's coming from.
Right.
So,
And they want roundabouts everywhere.
and roundabouts. That is correct. Yes, they did mention roundabouts. I did not see you in that meeting.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, no, I've seen the plans.
Gotcha.
I was like, Jim being on the fire department, I'm sure he's seen every plan that's for the next 15 years.
Maybe. Do we have any other opportunities that we can think of?
With opportunities from my short time being here, I guess goes back to something that was said, community engagement. I feel is within this district, we can get more community engagement. I don't know how it is once kids are back in fully, and I look forward to that, but I think there's a lot of opportunity out there for community engagement.
I'd agree.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there an opportunity for more curriculum tie-in to the solar panels?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Yes, there is. When they started with, not us generally, but Common Core, one of them dealt with renewable resources
Mm. Yeah.
for science.
And there's a dashboard the students could use to see what the panels have been doing.
Absolutely. 100%.
Do the students know about that? I mean, I have an 8th grader and he's never mentioned.
It's not live.
Oh,
And when
okay.
I say it's not live, we
Okay.
haven't livened it up to make it public.
Okay.
That I know of.
Okay.
Because I can go onto my websites and see it.
All right.
Yeah, with the panels coming on shortly before the whole pandemic hit, at GMS, that would have been the biggest one for them to use it at,
Mhm.
curriculum wise. Kind of lost a whole year of opportunity to be able to develop those over there.
Mhm.
It's a great thought. It really is. For them to get the understanding from science and math perspective of it.
Another opportunity is for just trying to be creative and thinking about the growing population of English language learners, utilizing those park spaces and outdoor spaces. I know safety is a consideration, but it's just kind of throwing that out there too. I worked with a student a couple years ago in a different school, and just giving him language like as he felt the wind and touching different textures of plants. Like it just kind of opened up opportunities to deal and teach students with those language needs. And I did meet parents at Avon many years ago who wanted to try to build a garden there. They have a lot around there, just with, if you take like a bird walk or something, with the marsh. There's so many opportunities just using the space that's already there without having to build garden beds or new things.
I agree.
Mhm. I'm watching my capital budget going up and up and up and up. Or expenditures, I should say.
That's funny. I'm watching the fund balances go down and down and down.
That's it. Yes. Mm.
But
What
that's
else?
all I really have. I got to get moving over to the other meeting,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
so I can go and close it.
You go close out. Everybody, thank you very much. If anybody has any other thought processes or anything, please.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Adam.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a great night.
Yep. Good job tonight, Adam.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It all happened so fast, from having to get it done in time and the cold weather and really going nonstop. I was asked, I'm going to stop this here. I
And I
was
could tell